Hello and welcome to TableTalk Friday, your weekly dose of D&D banter between three lads in a bedroom. If you like their style, make sure to follow them on whichever podcast service you prefer, and come back every Friday for another upload. Now, back to the boys.
We'll cut that part out. And here's where the episode starts.
I mean, when it comes to RP, honestly, it's gonna come down to the table, man. Because do you remember my first time like role playing my character? It was just like, oh hey guys, I'm Schmidt the monk.
It's me, Seth the monk.
Hi, it's me, Seth Schmidt the monk.
Yeah.
Now, and then I don't know. I was just so excited to be playing D&D that just the second I got into the game, it was like boom, boom, hit a bunch of guys. Anyways, who are you guys that I just helped out? It's me, Schmidt the Hedgehog.
Pretty much.
I feel like you really have to capitalize on the easing into it part, because when you first start playing D&D, there's so many things you gotta learn and figure out how the whole mechanic thing works. You gotta learn the situation at the table, how those relationships work. And especially combat. Combat's confusing. Like, you got all those actions, bonus actions, whatnot. You just have to do whatever you're feeling comfortable with in the moment, and then you're just gonna grow from there as you go.
Yeah, I mean, every table's gonna be a lot different when it comes to roleplay, because I personally prefer having a lot more story elements at the table in the game. I like adding a lot more story, characterizing every single character. Trying to make them all slightly different, even if they have similar voices, as we've spoken about before. And I like it when my players do the same. So I really like it when all of your characters are unique. You guys have had many times where your characters just use your voice. And that's totally cool. But as long as they're not just you, is what I prefer. Now, that's not me saying that anybody should not just do them, because easing into RP means being willing to just, do it. You have to be able to open your mouth first. There's players I played with for a long time who still, whenever you're like, okay, character, what do you think on this like one particular topic? And they're like, I don't have an answer. Sorry guys, can someone else answer for me? And it's like, no, stop. We just want you to try.
Right. But there are different types of players of D&D too. And, I think any level of commitment to, even just saying things as your character might say them, even without a silly voice or even without anything, super different from, the way that you talk. Just trying to think, okay, well, what would my character say in this moment? All right. Well, Grognor the Barbarian, I think that we should go left. Yeah, just something like that. It is a nice, step.
But sometimes it takes people a long time to get past that step. So, first of all, I've had many players, and I was not this player, but I've had many players come into a game of D&D and get immediately embarrassed. Like, the second that I start DMing, and I introduce myself, and I'm like, "Hail, adventurer! What will you be having today?" And then they're like, and you see their face go red. They freak out a little bit, and they're just like, and it's like, no, I just need a simple answer. Do you want water, orange juice, mead, ale, Diet Pepsi? If you say Diet Pepsi, I'll be like, oh yes, one fantasy Diet Pepsi for you, and and I'll do that because it'll be funny.
Yeah.
For fizz.
But it takes time to get players over that hump sometimes. Once they do, then you might get things like, oh well, they might say oh well, I'll just ask the barkeep for a water. And usually what I'll try to do to ease someone into that is I'll push forward well, why don't you ask them yourself? Just go ahead, and you don't have to give me a funny voice, just say can I get a water? And then they do, and it works out that way. But patience is how you ease into RP, because let's use the example we always use. Not everyone is a talented voice actor who's perfectly trained to be a part of the scenario and hasn't known everyone at the table for a decade or more. You know, you get into scenarios where you're with a brand new group of people. Maybe you're at a convention and this is your first time playing D&D. You just made your character at a table nearby, and now a DM you've never met before is going to DM for you and 4 other players a level 2 one-off. That can be overwhelming. You might have never done this before, and you just did it on a whim, and it's a risk you're taking to put yourself into that, but come to the table just ready to make a couple little decisions, have a couple little RP scenarios ready, and come open-minded. Everyone else here is a loser just like you.
Right, and I think that's part of the hurdle starting D&D is, and maybe this is due to some lack of communication up front, or like just a general not understanding what the game is going to be like. But for new players, you might open up with,
"All right, adventurers, let's have our
whatever, with your speaking in character," and they say, "What? We're speaking in character?"
Yeah.
And we're doing voices and that sort of thing. It can definitely, it almost is like stage fright, where you don't want to embarrass yourself in front of your friends, and you especially don't want to, like, for a lot of people, it's difficult to get over that hump of, I really don't want to sound stupid, and I don't want to sound like such a nerd.
Yeah, no, for real.
Like, I'm going to sit around at this table with a bunch of other guys, and we're going to be doing funny voices? Like, is that what I want to do with my time?
Sounds like it sucks.
Right. But here's the secret. You do want to do that. It might just take a little bit of time to get over that hurdle. I think in our group, just to jump into the meat of the episode here. Hi, welcome to TableTalk Friday.
I was thinking about doing that same interruption. This week's episode is going to be all about easing into roleplay, whether you're a new player or an experienced player who hasn't gotten that cool table roleplay experience yet. This is going to be about easing yourselves into talking in character, acting out your scenarios. And Zach, you can finish what you were saying before.
Yeah, absolutely. So, at our table, first session of D&D I ever played, I was playing with just a bunch of people who weren't, very theatrically minded, we'll say. I'm an amateur actor, but so when given the opportunity to embody another character, I was like,
"Well, sign me up. I'm Hamog, the orc paladin," and
then you have Theron, who's like, "All right, I rolled a hit, and I say to Hamog, you guys want to go left now?" and just to have that energy, that's sort of where we started. Was I was getting people out of their shell and
you had Morthos and Soggy Boy,
right?
Good names.
Yeah, and for the first few sessions, I think honestly until Seth joined our campaign, we weren't doing a lot of role play, and I was carrying the party on my back. The DM, of course, Lanky Eric, he was just right there with me, and he was like, "Here, take some inspiration. You did a great job role-playing that moment." But it wasn't until Seth showed up when we all got comfortable with, doing silly voices, especially...
So for instance, this party that they had was a group of guys who knew each other, but weren't all, like, close friends.
Mm-hmm.
I was Zach's roommate, and I was close friends with everybody else in the room except the DM. And so I hopped in and I was like, "Oh, we're doing D&D. I know what Critical Role is. I am about to have a blast." And I don't think I knew about Critical Role at the time, but it was like, oh, I have watched a bunch of Dungeons & Dragons shows before. And so I was like, okay, well, I know how to do this, except I hopped in the room and I was just speaking like I do now. But we ended up with a lot of RP scenarios because, from my understanding, you guys had already been doing that for weeks. So Lanky Eric brought me through a little scenario with him or with my character walking into Phandalin, going into the inn, and I RP'd out a whole thing with just me and Lanky Eric, where I pulled out my flute and was like, "Hey, I know how to play the pan flute. I just need a place to stay tonight. Can I get like a discount? I don't have a lot of money, please." And they were like, "Sure." if you play well enough today, you bring you a little bit of change, then we'll give you a discount for the night. I got half off because I rolled like a 13 on my performance check. So I played a little ditty on my
Little ditty.
on my pan flute, and then it was time for session 1. And so my character walks up to the party after getting in this little combat at the beginning, and I'm like, "Oh, hi guys, I'm the new guy." I'm like, "Hey, I just came into town. What was up with those assholes?" And then you guys had to explain it to me. We got a little bit of characterization down. I knew barely any little bit about what had happened before, and I was like, "Well, I don't really have anything going on right now. I will offer my services to all of you." And I was totally in to just act stupid from day one.
Right. Well, and that's sort of where we headed. So I think this is kind of a great way to break the ice for people who aren't super comfortable with role playing. Is before you do serious role play, ask them to do something stupid, and then you immediately get that positive response from everyone at the table if you say something funny, because everyone's gonna laugh. They're gonna be like, "Oh, Soggy Boy, you're just so funny." "Oh, Snagglepuss," he says it like Snagglepuss. No, say it again. And so that was I think that's where the floodgates sort of tipped for our party initially, is by being silly. So when my first character died, I had the opportunity to play as Quinn Artman,
The funniest character to date.
yeah, just well, let me start over. So he has sort of just a it's an affectation where he'll talk and say things that you probably shouldn't say in normal circumstances or social situations. Yeah, just because it's weird to bust out non sequiturs. Yeah, this reminds me of that one time where in my village we have a saying where if you talk too much, it's what does it go like again? Oh yeah, so he who talks too much doesn't listen.
And he would say stuff like that all the time, and our characters would be cracking up. He would go to like have an RP interaction with like a guard or something and go off on a crazy speech like that, and my character would always step in and be like, "I am so sorry about him," once again. and that did really help like a lot of us come out of our shells when it came to RP. It was like, "I am so sorry about this guy. Hi, I'm Schmidt. I'm normal."
Yeah. Yeah, it helped to be the fool. Where even Snagglepuss seemed more reasonable than Quinn.
Well, and then when you get into our second campaign, we get a character like Vogue. Chase's character, or Chase Eric, I should say.
Yes, please.
Keep it correct.
Computer science Eric, Chase, is... he is a more shy person by nature, and so him playing a low charisma barbarian who didn't have a whole lot to say, but when he did, it was really good, was awesome, especially alongside Galandon Galandel, face of the party. Blade singer extraordinaire, and I have a daughter, she's right over there. It was awesome playing Galandon because I finally got to come out of my RP shell and be the Quinn Artman of the next group,
Yeah.
Where it was like, okay, I get to be the guy who gets everybody else into this, where Galandon would be in a very intense situation, and then I would say, "Okay, everyone, we have a team. We need to have a team meeting because I'm not really sure what's going on. Did you get anything from that? Did you? Because I was listening to that, and then I rolled a 1."
Right. Yeah. So I think that's actually really good advice for the more experienced player at the table. Yeah. If we're trying to have like a RP heavy D&D campaign. If some people aren't super comfortable with it, it's nice to, reach out to other people in character and say, all right, well, I really didn't catch that. Arinon, could you please give me your thoughts? And then that would cue...
Do you have any idea what that holy symbol meant? Because I looked at it and it looked like a squirrel.
Yeah. And then Arinon would be able to play off of you and it's a lot more comfortable, I think, for a lot of players to RP with each other versus RPing with the DM. Or even if that's not the case, by RPing with each other, you sort of build up that, party rapport, and then you think back on, Yeah, I loved playing D&D with that party because of all the times that, Morwen told Daleth that he had a bad idea.
Yeah, I mean, for real. And then, I don't know, I think it's good to have, design your character with an RP idea in mind, sort of what their mannerisms will be, because a lot of times multiple people want to be the face of the party. And while that's great sometimes, other times it's great to have a Galandon who is the face of the party, who can then rally everybody together and be like, okay, we need to have some sort of consensus here between all of us as to what we're going to do next. So, okay, everyone, team meeting time. We do this all the... Sorry, Mr. NPC over there. I know this is weird. Not a lot of people do this when they come here. We have team meetings, so I'm going to need you to stand 10 feet that way. And I would do that in character all the time. I would be like, everyone, team meeting. If you're not part of the team, go over there.
I think a lot of this comes into character creation, too, if you really want to go back to it. You don't have to put your character up on a pedestal. You don't have to be Sir Esquire from the northern parts of Everland, where I have been there all of my life. I am the smartest man alive. You don't have to. You can just be...
I'm new here. I'm Fred. I don't really know what's going on, guys.
Right. Don't be afraid to be a little goofy, be a little funny, but overall, just pick something you can do.
Right.
Don't try to be the most grandioso player at the table. Just have fun. Roll with it.
Right, and to that point, so we're talking about RP and making silly voices kind of in tandem here, but that's not necessarily the case. I think there's plenty of good role play that comes from just talking like a normal person, but just understanding your character's stance on things and finding places to differentiate themselves from you. So that's what I did for I think my longest running character, about to be eclipsed by Oswald Alemaker, but
right.
But Morwen, he was very much he talked in my regular tone of voice more often than not, because I didn't want to overshadow other people at the table. I wanted everyone to get into it. Thinking back, I wish I did a silly voice just so I could recall it as easily. Because Morwen's sort of he's floating away as I don't have a silly voice for him. But I had so much fun just playing that character and sort of being the along with Eknon, sort of the straight man of the group and bringing us together. Like, all right, well, I get this sounds like a great idea to murder that man and steal his things, but God will hate you if you do that. so Morwen wouldn't say that, but that's what he was getting at, and we all knew it.
Just so you know, it is a sin, so I don't think we should.
Right. But it fit for that character for that party, because we had Beryl, who was just such a big character, who just chewed the scenery, ate up the spotlight at any time that he could get it, and then Eknon with his silly voice as well, and Daleth, just a very silly character. It was nice, I think, to play a more straight man character, and at that point, it's not wrong to use your own voice. It's a character choice, which ultimately I think a lot of D&D roleplay, especially at like high level, we're talking about like Critical Role at this point. Not every table is going to have this roleplay, but it is acting once you get down to like the fundamentals of, all right, what makes awesome D&D roleplay. It is in that sense acting to some degree.
And I mean, in along the lines of what you're saying, if you're a DM and you're trying to ease into roleplay, I mean, good luck. Being the DM is a hard job, and starting out, I'd say coming up with 3 distinct voices is a great idea. Giving yourself a male voice, a female voice, and an old person voice, or something like that. or a male. You got to have at least a male and a female one, because there's There's too many characters to go off of, too many distinctions. You gotta have at least those two available to you. I would kind of go into a female with a little high-pitched elven along those lines to start out with. And as far as male goes, if you're a male, you can use your own voice. If you want to add something rough to it, you can do that as well. Or you can be a little more nerdy on that sort of side. Put a little bit of nasal in it. There's a lot of different characters that you can come up with on the fly. And honestly, I would say write down a bunch of character concepts, and then the second that character comes up in the game, make something up. Because that's how I did it for the longest time. As soon as that character came up, I was like, this is the nerdy guy. All right, I've got my voice. I'm good. The goblins came up, and I just started screaming because I didn't have any better ideas. I was just like, you do that. I'm gonna fire my bow at you if you don't walk around the corner right now and never come back. And that ended up being how I characterized goblins from then on out.
It's true.
And every now and then I'll come up with a little more soft-spoken goblin that you end up talking to, and he's got some shyness, and he's in his training.
But that's a different breed. We don't usually run into that guy.
Right, you don't usually run into that guy. He's a very specific character. If you happen to find goblins in the woods and try to talk to them, they're always pretty much going to sound like this. Yeah, I would say if you're a DM, come up with some character concepts, practice your voices. For instance, I would say out of the three of us, Drew probably has the least amount of voices to go off of. I've had a lot of practice of working on them really hard. Zach went to school for theater. He's got a good amount of voices he can work with. But Drew does a very good job of allocating his resources, I would say. Allocating what he hasn't...
I'll take it.
Yeah, you do a good job with your voice considering you don't have a trained one. I was a musician, so I can kind of mess with my voice a little bit. I can't quite always bring out the 100% of what a character has, but I can mess with my voice a lot. That's not too much for me. Drew was a business major, so he wasn't involved in the arts at all.
We're known for our theatrics.
And well, I hear most businesses in capitalism are very straightforward with all their information and whatnot. But Drew does a very good job of allocating his resources when it comes to being a DM, and he is a very good one. So, Drew, do you have anything to say about how you first eased into roleplay?
Oh gosh, I feel like I was a different kind of a case because I was really excited to start role playing. It didn't intimidate me too much. It was more so I knew I wasn't very good at it, and I just wanted to be better, so I wanted to practice a whole lot. Something, or at least I think the most important thing for me when role playing is, like you said, I'm not necessarily trained with voices or anything. What I do to make sure that I have some kind of voice or something to play with, something to swap between, is I try to have some sort of anchoring mannerism, some sort of word, something that'll get me into character. So
any one particular come to mind? I couldn't possibly think of a single word that you would use to get into character every chance you got.
One you probably don't think of is Ekdon Greylock. When I get into character, is he had a buddy named Daleth, and so anytime I thought I had to get into Ekdon's character, I would go, Daleth, what are you doing of it? We really need to get going. And I have another character named Samoon, and I can't do Samoon without properly straightening myself and ensuring that my posture is of the utmost satisfaction to those in my close proximity. And it's you have to just pick something to. It doesn't have to be a word. It can literally be the way you move. I have another character that he's not very good, but I can really only do him if I lean in like this. And my head tilts a little bit to the left, and I kind of stumble over my words like an old man. I don't even know what it is.
Yeah.
But you just change anything. Pick. Literally, you can close one of your eyes if you want to and act like a pirate.
I mean,
pick anything.
That was a tip you said a long time ago. You were like, hey, if you want a different voice than the one you have, close one eye and you'll do a different voice. And I was like, really? And I tried it. I was like, wow, okay, I think I'm doing a little bit of a thing here. I feel stupid. I feel like a little gnome or something when I do it, but I'm like, oh, okay, I do feel a little bit different. Changing posture, changing how you feel and look, that is all part of good RP, especially as a DM, is being able to characterize, changing your facial expressions. When we started Avernus, I got some new monster expressions down that I had worked on, and Zach mentioned to me at the beginning, he was like, you're doing a really good job with your monsters this campaign, and I was like, I'm just trying, man, that's all I wanted to do.
Yeah, I would say, as a DM, more than a player, it is nice to have that range of expression. So, not just the voice, but, like Drew was talking about, just different mannerisms and ways to hold yourself to differentiate, and that was something that Lanky Eric
did well.
Yeah. To maybe his greatest role playing trait as a DM. Every character that we run into always had just like a certain way about them. He'd hold himself differently, especially for monsters. He had this man would contort his face in ways that made me scared as a player at the table.
Yeah.
I was like, that's horrifying. That's a very good job.
Yeah.
That looks exactly like what I think a Nothic is. Like, I don't even look at the illustration of the Nothic. I think about Lanky Eric's face.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I thought the Nothic was like this huge end-all be-all thing. It's like a CR2.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, we're dead. We are dead.
I felt dead.
Yeah.
You mentioned the faces thing. I feel like faces is its totally own sector of role playing, because you could do the same exact voice you have, but creepily stare at the player that you're talking to, or just slow your voice down in that sense. Like, oh, he's staring at me. Oh, this guy's creepy. I don't like him. But you didn't change your voice at all.
When I think about a character, the second I go into it, I start making different faces and start actually thinking differently. Anytime I do Lulu, I just go.
Yep.
And
that's your anchor right there. That's your face.
My eyes widen a little bit. I straighten up, and I just start becoming the airheaded thing that I know I can be. And I'm just like, I've been thinking about party names lately. I'm not sure. We should be Lulu and the Fuzzy Bunch. and I'll say things that I never thought of before the session, because all of a sudden I'm in that space as Lulu. And it makes me so excited to play Avernus every week, because I'm just like, this character I'm not DMPCing this character. She's not the most useful thing in the room. Every now and then she'll use a cool ability or something, but it's not like I'm going, I know all the answers, so just ask me, and I got it. Lulu is a tiny golden hollyphant who flies around with the party and basically guides them along. She's a big crux of Descent into Avernus, if you've ever played it before. But yeah, so that's my characterization of Lulu. She's this airheaded little thing. She's lost a lot of her memory, but she is just so happy-go-lucky. And anytime the party says something, it's like, I don't think we should have ripped his head off. And so
that seems mean.
That was good. That was pretty good.
Or Lulu, do you know anything about that? Nope. Nope is my one word to get into Lulu. It's like, nope.
Yep.
So, mannerisms, things like that. As a DM, above all, it's just being able to differentiate characters. But if it is your first session DMing, don't worry about any of that. Make sure you know what you're doing. Have one or two NPCs that they interact with, maybe the wizard and the dwarf that they're rescuing. Have those two as your guys that are set up, and have everything else be the players.
And your players walk into the town, and they're talking to a bunch of NPCs, it's okay for all of them to have the same voice. It's okay.
Yes.
It's absolutely okay. Don't worry about it. Don't stress.
if it's your first session DMing, they better understand that.
Honestly, I run into that a lot as a DM. You'll run into a character, I don't know what their voice is going to be, and I'm just going to start talking, and whatever voice it is, if it's gruff older man, you're getting gruff older man. Even if you just got gruff older man at the other police station that you just
Man too.
Hey, it's gruff older man Eric again. And that is something that's been a lot of fun in this campaign, is the whole Eric bit. Sean, firefighter Eric, once just pulled out of his ass. He was like, he made a joke. He made friends with a bunch of guys at the front gate of Baldur's Gate. And he was like, hey, Eric, how are the kids? and then I responded like, oh, they're doing great. And it was like, oh, this guy's an actual guy now. He just invented this. And then later on, they go introduce themselves to a separate set of guards and they're like, hey, this one guy told me a bunch of stuff. Do you guys have any like leads on this information that I was given? And they were like, who told you that? And he goes, Eric? And then the guards go, front gate, Eric, we love that guy. And it became a bit from then on where any NPC that's unnamed is just some kind of Eric. So we had Mesoloth Eric. We had, what was it? The Yugoloth guy, Eric.
Noel Eric.
Eric, of course.
How could you forget Noel Eric?
Yeah, Noel Eric. Top Stair Eric.
Top Stair Eric.
The guy at the top of the stairs.
Man, Top Stair Eric really got messed up.
Yeah,
Oh,
Top Stair
really
Eric got
messed
messed up.
Man, Top Stair Eric sucked. He never... We were fighting a Hezro and a Nalfeshni. We were like level 5 or 6. Top Stair Eric didn't do anything.
Well, I mean, he burned that whole action of being torn in half and whatnot. I guess that was good.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he never landed a hit.
No.
So, all in all, guys, the idea of getting comfortable in your game is really all that it's about. Starting out with whatever is your comfort zone and then working your way out of it from there. D&D is not going to be comfortable at first, probably, especially when it comes to the roleplay, because you have to be willing to like give a little bit before you can get everything out of the game. There's a lot of learning that goes into it, and our party was not as nearly as good as it wasn't nearly as good as it is now back when we first started. When we started Storm Kings, I felt like we were just playing D&D. We had a good grasp of the game. We knew the rules. Now it's time for us to make characters. And as we went along in that campaign, not everybody had a crazy backstory, but RP was very heavy to the point where everyone cared so much about it that a character left the party because the other party members could not agree with that party member. Sometimes you might have campaigns where you guys aren't really so RP heavy in that way that you guys have moral obligations. Other times, characters have to leave because they are morally obligated to something else. And that's totally okay. All that I'm trying to say is try it out. Make up a silly voice once or twice here and there. Like try out a silly voice and don't get embarrassed because everyone else is also a loser. You all suck. So do we. We're all losers.
You're all playing make-believe at a table, plastic dice. It's okay. Just use a voice. You're fine.
Well, I thought that we were pretty cool, actually.
I mean, honestly, I'm as cool as nerds can get. So.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
I think we were all, back in Storm Kings, we were all beginners with a couple dice and, sitting around a table. And now we're all moderate players sitting around a table with some dice. That can make some slightly funnier voices.
Yeah.
That's
Right.
it.
When appropriate. But we don't always have to do funny voices. And sometimes, just speaking from experience, from someone who's done silly voices, sometimes it's hard to reconcile a serious moment if you've got a silly voice.
There are some moments that Oswin wants to, get a little bit more serious, and it's almost like he doesn't sound the same as he usually does. Because if I spoke like this all the time and said, Pyth, I'm very sorry that your father abused you and abandoned you as a child,
it just wouldn't sound right. So,
Thanks for bringing it up, Dad.
So take that with what you will. Sometimes a more neutral voice might be helpful. But that's just a little tip for me. That's for free.
That was for free?
This whole show is literally for free. It's all about Dungeons and Dragons advice.
Well, I just wanted them to really value that part of it.
Yes,
Sam.
of course. Yes, of course. Any final thoughts on easing into RP, guys? I know this is a little bit of a shorter one. Last week was a longer one, so I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
I feel like it's totally okay. This was a little bit shorter, though, because we can talk to you all day about how to roleplay and tips and whatnot, but you're not going to get any better until you try it. You got to jump in.
Let's
and
act
just
out a
give it
25-minute scenario as an example. No.
That's a great idea. I'll play Quinn. You can be Galandon, and you can be Eknon. And
The
we
most
all
obnoxious characters we all have.
Dale's not here. I can't use my anchor.
David. Oh, he's dead.
Oh, man. But,
Jeez.
yeah, roll with the punches, guys. Jump into it. Give it a shot. It's okay. They're all your friends. I would say pretend they're all in their underwear, but that's weird. So don't do that.
There's a reason this one is titled Easing into RP, and that's because you have to take baby steps to get better at it.
For sure.
And with that, character, take us out.
Weird, you said that in character.
Hello, thank you for listening to TableTalk Friday. For more adventures, check us out at your favorite podcast service. If you have any questions about our travels, you can please send us a sending spell at tabletalkfriday@gmail.com. And otherwise, feel free to stop by next Friday for our next episode. And I hope you have a nice rest of your day.